热爱中国的宣教士有很多，其中有一个与中国有着100年情缘的宣教士家庭，一家好几代人都和中国结下了不解之缘。这就是热爱中国的百年伙伴 Burklin 一家。Gustav Burklin， 中文名叫林立德，是 Burklin 家族里第一代来到中国的宣教士。他出生于德国，神学院毕业后被神呼召，于1925年来到中国服侍。
My grandfather was an amazing man of God. I do remember him and my grandmother telling us stories when I was young that they used to live in China. And I would always say, well, what were you doing in China? He goes, well, we were missionaries.And then I found out later, as I grew older and just understood more about ministry, that he had actually decided to become a missionary on his own as a young man and felt called by God to go to China, which he did, but he did not know my grandmother yet. And my grandmother had this similar vision, totally separate from my grandfather, and so she went to China as a single woman as well as a missionary.So they both met in China, actually in the province of Jiangxi, and that's where they met and then fell in love and then got married in China, and they had 3 children in China, and the middle boy was my father. And in those days, to learn Chinese, you had to go to England because all the textbooks were from English into Chinese, not German into Chinese.So can you imagine, you have to go to another country to learn another language, and that's what my grandparents did.
在中国的服侍要面对艰难的环境和种种生活的困窘，他们的儿子林明胆便是在父母颠沛流离时于安徽芜湖哇哇坠地。虽然林立德与裴林夫妇饱受艰难，常经忧患，但他们已经深深爱上这里的人民，情愿犹如农夫在江西勤恳开荒布道25年，直到1949年移居德国。
My grandfather told me stories of how he would walk from one village to another just to share the gospel with different Chinese people. I heard from my dad when he would share stories about his parents ministering in China that they just loved the Chinese people. And the Chinese people loved them in return.
青少年林明胆在上海参加青年归主的皮鲍勃牧师带领的聚会时深受感动，立志奉献一生服侍耶稣基督。当他随父母从中国移居德国时，林明胆已是青年小伙。在巴黎的一所圣经学校学习期间，他遇到并爱上了他未来的妻子英格。林明胆后来也成为一名牧师，热忱地传扬福音。他曾在100多个国家忠实地宣扬福音，成为传道者，成千上万的人通过他的事工认识了耶稣。尽管这样，林明胆的内心深处一直在思念着他出生和成长的中国故乡。
My father was a lot of fun. He was always he was a great family man. He loved his kids. I have 3 younger siblings.And one of my favorite things about my father is just him coming home from work, and we would just love to play with him. And then the other thing I remember of my dad, he was very devoted to Jesus Christ. He loved to preach the word.
80年代的中国对外开放，林明胆牧师便立即出发，回到思念已久的中国，重访了他和父母曾经生活和服侍过的地方。随着后来越来越多的探访，他与当地教会和信徒建立了深厚的友谊。林明胆牧师看到许多中国的弟兄姐妹在家里敬拜，他想帮助他们建一个实体的教会，在教堂里敬拜神，于是创办了中国伙伴 China Partner 事工，帮助中国教会的建立和发展。林明胆牧师就这样成为了 Burklin 家族第2代服侍中国的宣教士。
China Partner is a mission that really exists to serve the church in China. Our tagline under our logo is to serve the church in China. And I love that because we're not there to evangelize China. We're not there to build new churches in China. We're not there to tell the Chinese how to do anything or run anything. But we're simply there to serve, to help them, to do whatever we can to improve their their ministry.
在黎明胆牧师往来中国的旅程中，他为中国教会的建立和发展持续的祷告，也为那里的需要尽上本分。他曾协助江西老家圣经学院和教会的建立筹集资金，邀请世界各地的布道家、神学教授和牧师到不同教会及神学院培训中国牧师、神学生及教会的同工。黎明胆说，他生在中国，长在中国，和中国有特殊的亲密关系。作为半个中国人，拥有中国文化背景是一件令他自豪不已的事情。
My dad would always introduce himself when he was asked to speak in a church or when he was introduced to a group of people in China, that he was like an egg. And people always asked him, like, what do you mean by an egg? Well, I look white on the outside, but really on the inside I'm yellow. He had a real special love for the Chinese. He always said, I love to come back to China. He had a deep love and appreciation for his home country. That's what he really considered China. This is where I want to be buried, he even once said. My mother wasn't so excited about that. She said, no, you're not going to be buried in China.
黎明利作为黎明胆牧师的儿子，随着父亲多次访问中国，也深深地爱上了中国和中国人民。后来神亲自感动和呼召他，在他父亲的挑战下，加入了中国伙伴的事工。
My dad called me one day and said, I'm back in China. I'm doing some regular trips to my home country where I was born. There seems to be some open doors happening. I really would like to do more in China. In fact, he had, by that time, had already done several short-term training seminars, and it was booming. And he said, hey, Eric, would you consider working with me in this mission? And at that time, I had no idea about China. I mean, I knew about China through my grandparents, and I knew my father had been born in China. But personally, I never really had the vision of, or a calling, I need to go to China to share the gospel. But when my father, who I loved very much and respected, and asked me to serve with them, I thought, wow, this is pretty cool to work for your dad. And so I accepted. We prayed over it. My wife and I said, this should be something that I should consider. So I did. And so in 93, I joined China Partner. My father had incorporated that ministry shortly before that time. And that's how I got involved with China Partner. And once I started traveling with my father to China on a regular basis and meeting leaders and pastors and then the Chinese people, I did fall in love with the people of China. Even though we come from different cultures, in Christ we're all the same. God would give me the privilege of getting to know a great country like that. One of the highlights for me personally is just to see the next generation come up and being equipped and trained. And many of them who we had the privilege of training at that time now have taken over leadership positions. They're senior pastors of many churches. They're presidents of seminaries and Bible schools. And for me to still have that relationship with them is very, very special.
2020年7月，黎明胆宣教士安息主怀，而他对福音和中华人民的热爱，这份遗产仍然存在。在中国伙伴这份百年事工的传承，也是一个家庭几代人的历史里，何等有力地见证了圣经中的一句应许：爱是永不止息。
When my grandfather went there was 25, 1925. Now it's 2021. So that's a long time to be involved in that country, and it's pretty special. I'm reminded of what Jesus said to Peter. He said, on this rock I will build my church. I will build my church. The personal pronouns are very significant in that verse. So who's going to do it? He is. And whose church is it? It's his. God will continue to build his church. It doesn't matter. It's not dependent on Eric Burklin or China Partner or even on my dad, who now has passed. It depends on him. And it's our joy and really my privilege to participate in his mission. It's really his mission that he is accomplishing through his people that are willing to be faithful to participate with him. And that's how I look at it also for China Partner. China Partner is a very small organization, but God is a big God who uses everyone who's willing to participate in his mission.
神的爱摸到了 Burklin 一家，也借着他们在过去这100多年里触及了数不清的中华人民。 我们相信被这份爱摸到的人也一定会将这份爱传递出去。但愿我们也能因自己被主所爱，也成为这传递这份爱的接棒人，让爱可以永不止息。